Om Namah Shivaya. Hi friends, how are you? In this video, we are going to learn about the Thenar muscles. They are three in number: abductor pulsus brevis, flexor pulsus brevis, opponens pulsus. Abductor pulsus brevis, flexor pulsus brevis, opponens pulsus. Next, the relations of the thenar muscles. Abductor pulsus brevis lies laterally, flexor pulsus brevis lies medially, and the opponent's pulsus lies between them. These two muscles, that means this opponent's pulsus lies between them. Abductor pulsus brevis, flexor pulsus brevis. That means this opponent's pulsus lies between these two brevis. Okay. Next, coming to the features. Features of these thenar muscles. These thenar muscles form the thenar eminence of palm of the hand. They are chiefly responsible for opposition of thumb. All of them are supplied by the recurrent branch of the median nerve, that means C8 and T1. These thenar muscles form thenar eminence of palm of the hand. They are chiefly responsible for opposition of the thumb. All of them are supplied by the recurrent branch of the median nerve, that is C8 and T1. Next, coming to the note. The actions of the thenar muscles are indicated by their names to some extent, but they all are involved in the opposition, providing pincer-like grip between the thumb and the index finger. The actions of the thenar muscles are indicated by their names to some extent, but they all are involved in opposition, providing pincer-like grip between the thumb and the index finger. See this table. This table gives the information about the origin, insertion and actions of the thenar muscles. Okay. First, abductor pulsus brevis. See here, abductor pulsus brevis, and the origin of this abductor pulsus brevis is tubercle or scaphoid, crust of the trapezium, flexor retinaculum. Origin of the abductor pulsus brevis, tubercle or scaphoid, crust of trapezium, flexor retinaculum. See this figure. This figure gives the information about the bony attachment of these thenar muscles. See here, this is the abductor pulsus brevis. This is the abductor pulsus brevis. And the origin of this abductor pulsus brevis is, this is scaphoid and this is trapezium. Okay, scaphoid, trapezium. And the origin of this abductor pulsus brevis is tubercle is present. Scaphoid tubercle is present here. Tubercle of the scaphoid and crust of the trapezium. Okay. Origin of the abductor pulsus brevis is tubercle of scaphoid and crust of the trapezium. See here, again this is the abductor pulsus brevis, and the origin of this abductor pulsus brevis is, see here, this is same at the same point, tubercle of the trapezium, crust of the tubercle of the scaphoid, crust of the trapezium and retinaculum. These three gives the origin to the abductor pulsus brevis. Tubercle of the scaphoid, crust of the trapezium and retinaculum. These green lines represent the retinacular, flexor retinaculum. Okay. Abductor pulsus brevis origin, tubercle of scapoid, crest of trapezium, flexor retinaculum. Next, coming to the insertion of these abductor pulsus brevis, lateral side of base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. Lateral side of base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. Okay. For better understanding, see here first. These are the carpals. These are the carpal bones. These are the carpal bones. And these are the metacarpals. Okay. Next, except the first thumb, except the first finger, all fingers has the three phalanx or phalanges. Okay, these are the phalanges. These are the proximal phalanx, middle phalanx and distal phalanx. Okay, but see, for the first finger it has only two phalanges, proximal and distal. Okay. Next, see here, abductor pulsus brevis insertion is lateral side of base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. This is the insertion of the abductor pulsus brevis. Okay, this red color indicates the origin, this blue color indicates the insertion. Okay, this is the insertion of the abductor pulsus brevis. This is the lateral side, this is the medial side, and this is the first finger, that means this is the thumb. Okay, lateral side of the first phalanx of the thumb. See here, this is the lateral side, and I already told you this is the first phalanx or proximal phalanx, and this is the thumb. Lateral side of the base of the, this is the base and this is the head, base of the thumb. Okay, proximal phalanx of the thumb. Next, action of this abductor pulsus brevis is abduction of thumb. Abduction of thumb. Okay. Next, flexor pulsus brevis. Flexor pulsus brevis origin. Flexor pulsus brevis has two heads, superficial head, deep head. First, superficial head from the distal border of the flexor retinaculum. Deep head from the trapezoid and capitate bones. Superficial head from the distal border of flexor retinaculum. Deep head from trapezoid and capitate bones. See here, in this figure, this is the flexor pulsus brevis. See here, this is the flexor pulsus brevis, and this flexor pulsus brevis has two heads, superficial head and deep head. See, this is the superficial head and this is the deep head. Okay, superficial head and deep head, superficial head and deep head. Origin of the superficial head from the distal part of the flexor retinaculum. Observe this region, guys. See here, I already told you that this is the superficial head, this is the deep head. Okay, and the origin of this superficial head is from the distal part. See here, this is the distal, this is the proximal, and this is the distal part of the flexor retinaculum. Superficial head is from the distal part of the flexor retinaculum. Next, this is the deep head. Origin of this deep head from, see here guys, these are the carpal bones. Okay, this is trapezium, trapezoid, capitate and hamate. Okay, see here, this origin of this deep head of flexor polsis brevis is from these two bones. This is the first bone and this is the second bone. This is the trapezoid and this is the capitate. That means origin of this deep head of flexor polsis brevis is from the trapezoid and capitate. Okay, this is about the origin of flexor polsis brevis. Next, insertion of this flexor polsis brevis. And the insertion of this flexor polsis brevis is same at the region that the insertion of this abductor polsis brevis. See, lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. This is the insertion of flexor polsis brevis. See the insertion of abductor polsis brevis, lateral side of base of the proximal phalanx of thumb. Okay, same as the abductor polsis brevis. See here, this is the insertion of flexor polsis brevis and also for the abductor polsis brevis. Lateral side of the base of the, this is the base, okay, base of the, and this is the proximal phalanx of the thumb. See here, this is the thumb, this is the proximal phalanx of the thumb, and this is the base of the proximal phalanx, and this is the lateral side, base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb. Next, action of this flexor polsis brevis. Flexion of thumb. Flexor polsis brevis action is flexion of thumb. And the next thenar muscle is opponent's polsis. And the origin of this opponent's polsis is flexor retinaculum, crest of trapezium. Flexor retinaculum, crest of trapezium. See here, this is the opponent's polsis. See here, this is the opponent's polsis, and this opponent's polsis is originated from the flexor retinaculum. This opponent's polsis is originated from the flexor retinaculum and crest of the trapezium. Okay, here the crest of the trapezium is present, and the origin of this opponent's polsis is flexor retinaculum, and this is the trapezium, crest of the trapezium. Okay, next, insertion of the opponent's polsis. Insertion of opponent's polsis, lateral border and adjoining lateral half of the palmar surface of the first metacarpal bone. Lateral border and adjoining lateral half of the palmar surface of the first metacarpal bone. See here, this is the insertion of opponent's polsis. This is the insertion of opponent's polsis, and the opponent's polsis insertion is lateral border. See here, lateral border of the lateral half of the, okay, lateral half of the palmar surface. Okay, on palmar surface, guys, on palmar surface of first metacarpal bone. This is the first metacarpal bone we are seeing in palmar surface, and this is the lateral border, and this is the lateral surface, and the insertion of this opponent's polsis is lateral border, lateral half, okay, lateral surface, half of the lateral surface on palmar surface. Okay, on palmar surface of first metacarpal bone. This is the first metacarpal bone. Okay, this is the insertion of opponent's pulses. Next action. Next action of this opponent's pulses action is opposition of thumb deepens the hollow of the palm. Opposition of the thumb and deepens the hollow of the palm. These are the action of the opponent's pulses. See once again the origin, insertion and action of these three thenar muscles. Abductor pulsus brevis. Origin is tubercle of scapuline, crest of the trapezium, flexor retinaculum. And the insertion lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of the thumb, and the action is abduction of the thumb. Abductor pulsus brevis, abduction. Clear? Next, flexor pulsus brevis. Origin is, and this has two heads, superficial and deep. Superficial head is originated from the distal border of flexor retinaculum. Deep head from trapezoid and capitate bones. Next, insertion of these flexor pulsus brevis is lateral side of the base of the proximal phalanx of thumb. Next, action of this flexor pulsus brevis, flexion of thumb. Next, opponent's pulses. Insertion is flexor retinaculum, crest of the trapezium. Next, insertion of this opponent's palsy is lateral border and adjoining lateral half of the palmar surface of the first metacarpal bone. Next, action of this opponent's palsy is opposition of thumb deepens the hollow of the palm. This is about the origin, insertion and action of these thenar muscles. This is about the thenar muscles. If you like this video, like, share and subscribe. Thank you.